Sorry about that.
Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, we talk about the recent dev stream and the 5.2 patch notes which came out this week. But first, some SWTOR and Guild news. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 189, whose mission in this escape pod will not be delayed by a week. Yeah, sorry, buddy. You will be released into space as scheduled. With me, as always, is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Hi, Max. It's going great. I am reading a book that I wanted to tell you about called We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis E. Taylor. And the premise of it is that this guy has paid to have himself cryonically preserved in the case of his death. And what happens is he gets way in the future downloaded as software, basically. So, and it's going to be his adventure. So I've just listened about an hour and a half so far, but I'm liking it. I like the premise. It's also book one, I guess, in a series, and book two is coming out soon. So probably I'll be able to get that second book right when I finish the first book, which I don't like to wait. So that's good. And I do want to say too, we just finished our mandatory fun night MFN, and we had a good night. I enjoyed it. We did a variety of things. We went and killed a commander on Hoth, and then we went and killed guards on Ilum, both for conquest points, and then we went and interacted with a DVL boss on Tatooine, and then we killed and we killed a different DVL boss, and then we went and killed a world boss, Trapjaw, on Tatooine. So it was a fun and varied night.
Excellent.
I enjoyed it.
So you just interacted with the first one. So is that like
Yes.
just emotes and stuff, little RP?
We shot him a little. He shot us a little. You know.
You decided to
Then there
take
were
a
some
emoted a
dirt
dirt nap.
naps taken. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah. That book, I have. You mentioned that book to me a while back. You mentioned
Yeah.
it at some point, and I did end up picking it up in Audible myself, and I finished it actually a few days ago. Yeah, probably
That's a
about
good.
4 days ago. I like it. Yeah, good. So when you're done with it, we can compare notes after the fact.
We can have a confab about it.
Yes, we can. It's got some good little elements of even VR and stuff built into it too. It connects to the gaming universe in some ways, a little bit.
Well, what I like about it from the beginning is that there's not, how many books like where the protagonist wakes up in an alternate universe, or he's in Narnia, or he's got magical powers, whatever. It takes him like an inordinately long amount of time to figure that out.
Yeah,
I like it. This guy, he's sort of like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm a
yeah,
robot now.
yeah.
I like that.
It gets there quick in the plot too. It's this is all
Yeah.
about. I mean, that's the whole premise of the book. So it's not like they spend half the book on backstory either. It's like it rolls pretty quickly into bang. I'm now I am now Bob 1.0. So yeah, it's cool. This week I finished Bobaverse, started book 6 of the Expanse, which I had been saving, but I love the Expanse series, especially now that it's got a sci-fi version of it, which I like. I think they're doing well, even though the cast is much too young, but still. But in Star Wars, I've been doing a lot of the usual stuff. One thing that I was doing this week, I kept thinking I would just go to another character since I hit 300 a week ago, and start getting some of my other characters, either older characters leveled up, or my other 70s, get some XP ranks on them. And I did a little of that, but I kept coming back and playing my mercenary, wanting to do a couple things. One, just make sure I had enough command tokens, and make sure I had a good batch of unassembled pieces, because I had spent some unassembled pieces from PvP. And also I'm saving up a big collection of the command crates that you get off of operation bosses, the operation packs, the CXP packs.
Right.
and I'm planning on opening those next week, and we'll talk about why it's next week and not today. Coming up in the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
So, in the news, 5.2 is pushed back a week. They didn't specify why, did they? Completely. I mean, I'm sure we can all guess the reasons. It's just not ready.
It just wasn't ready. Yeah.
Kind of thing. But they
It's
didn't
my
get into
fault.
detail anywhere that I missed. Did they?
No.
Yeah,
We
I don't
just
think
said
so.
they wanted it to be high quality.
Yeah, which I am fine with. And as I was looking through the forums and the rage against them, there was also a pretty equal number of posts saying, "Hey, it's only a week. It's fine. Yes, we're all disappointed, but it's just a week. Let's make sure they iron out any game breaking bugs. We've had those in the past. Let's get it straight." So that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine with me.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
okay.
I'm fine with it. And I yeah. It says to me at least we have some notion that they do look at whether it's ready before they roll it out. So
Yes.
that's good.
Yes.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
Also, they patched in the bonus XP, Command XP, so that's going to continue until 5.2 hits. It's not completely obvious because you don't see it on your XP bar, but if you actually look at the numbers when you get XP, it's there.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny because when they tweeted out that they were doing that, it was like equal numbers of thank you. Now I can get my commando to level 70 before next week. And wait, you said it is, but it isn't. I don't see anything on my XP bar. And there's one guy who was tweeting out every time, just a little canned response. Not SWTOR, but just another player. It's not. It doesn't show on the bar, but blah blah blah. Doesn't show on the bar, but blah blah blah.
That's the service that person provided, which is appreciated.
Yes,
The
very.
canned response, because yes, everyone tweets first, and then
Reads after.
reads later. Rage
Although
first, look for answers later.
although they're sort of tweeting in that tweet thread, so I don't know how they got there
Yeah,
without reading, but
right.
it's possible. I repair all the time without looking how much it costs, so I know it's possible.
But that's sort of it, that's blindness that you impose on yourself on purpose.
Yeah. Yes, I learned it's a learned talent.
Yes. In guild and community news, with 5.2 getting pushed back, I also expect that Bad Feeling Podcast's contest to fight Tithe and post your Tithe kills to them and what other screenshots you'd like to post to them as well, and win 200 million credits. I expect that that's pushed back as well. I didn't confirm with those guys, but I expect it is, and I figured we'd call it out again so people remember it next week.
All right, because you won't be able to kill it. Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was 200 million Wampa Cubs.
So send them pictures of butts this week.
Right. Tithe next week, butts this week.
Say that Max said we're supposed to be sending you these screenshots of butts for your contest. They'll appreciate that.
And yeah, I'm sure they will.
What else?
I don't know.
We had MFN on Pubside tonight. You know, we
Yes,
had that.
we did.
And what I think we're switching to Imperial the next 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, we're going to do Imperial. I think Apple said he wanted to get in kind of a pattern of where we do Imperial for 2 weeks and then Pub for 1 week and then Imperial for 2 weeks and then Pub for 1 week. That way we won't forget the Pub side. It'll be always sort of an expected thing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And I also wanted to say, just to give sort of an overview of our raid teams right now, we have Soldiers of Light, SOL, on Monday nights, which is a pub team. They start at 9 o'clock Eastern. Then we have SUP on Wednesday nights, who's an imp side team, and they also start at 9 o'clock Eastern. They go till 11:30 though. And then we have our group that you and I are on called Lords of Light, LOL, which is also on the imp side on Thursday nights, and we start at 9. And the reason I'm mentioning all that is our raid teams right now have full rosters, But if you are looking for an alternate spot, just to give you an idea what times we start, so that if you want to check to see if you're needed and you want to run, those would be the times, if
Excellent.
that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And thank you for reminding me what team I am on.
Well, it's funny that we thought it was so funny that we named our team LOL, but at least it fit because we started out on the pub side, but now we're in
Yes,
dirty.
that's people don't realize that's how we pick ops teams names. We come up with the acronym first,
Right.
and then we find whatever random stuff that's sort of Star Wars-y that fits it.
Right.
Ironically. As
Also,
always, what's that?
oh, I'm just gonna say for anyone who's interested in the guild for Conquest this week, we're half on both sides. Repeatable stuff is Group Finder Flashpoints, Group Finder Ops, the weekly Flashpoints and Uprising missions, and Warzone's GSF, and Heroic missions on Ilum. Those are the repeatables.
Excellent. Yes, right, because the Gree are in town, right?
Yeah.
I like when those guys come in town. Go hang out with some squid people. As always, if you would like to join AIE and start your own ops team with an acronym first, please come join us. We have so AIE, our guild is a big multi-gaming community. We've got hundreds and hundreds of members across lots of MMOs and games in general. In Star Wars: The Old Republic, we are on Jedi Covenant, and you can check out guild information on aie-guild.org. And you can jump in on Jedi Covenant on either side. We've got guilds on both the Republic and the Empire side. And you can do a /cjoin AIE-LFO, and you can find officers in that channel if we happen to be on. If not, you can catch us on Twitter or check the guild site. You can get into Discord, and you can come hang out with us anytime. That would be cool. Certainly also, thank you to the chat room. We've been tossing some notes and ideas around in there. I see a lot of our team is in there tonight. I also saw Zen in there. I did get quite a few from last week's show. I got quite a few tips in a couple other places that I'll have to pass along to you, Zen. Some in the comments in Reddit, some in the comments back to me on Twitter. After the fact, a lot of people have a lot of suggestions for what they think we should tell BioWare we want at the Cantina, but there's also some good questions there too, as we talked about last week on the show. So thank you, chat room. We will talk to you after, but right now we've got plenty to get into in the dev stream and patch notes. And I did not pick a good drop in for dev stream.
I was just wondering. I'm like, oh, I wonder what he picked.
Is it a game changer? Should we go with game changer? Because we haven't done it in a while.
Sure.
All right.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Game changer for
Game changer for the industry.
This is quite a game changer. Well, we haven't used game changer in a while, so threw
Right.
that in there. In
Sort
that,
of a game changer.
yeah, in that we're gonna get well, in two ways. One, we'll finally get the first boss of the new operation. That's certainly a game changer. Two, just in reading through the patch notes, they did. I looked like a ton. To me, it looked like they took a big pass through a bunch of bugs that were out there that were bothering people. Many more than I even knew were in the game. So we're not even going to read through them all, but lots of little changes. It seems like they're cleaning up some stuff. They at least took some pass through the list. I'm sure there's a lot of pet peeves that still exist out there that aren't going to get touched, but we'll talk about some of the ones that did. So two things we're going to go through in general. We will take a sweep through what they talked about in the dev stream, which is still about what's coming in 5.2 as well, but we'll call out some of the things that they highlighted out of that dev stream, and I've got some pictures of that even that I can show. And then we'll go through the patch notes, and we'll just highlight a couple things that caught our eye in the patch notes as well. So do you want to kick it off and talk about... Did you watch the dev stream live, Seema? I did not watch it live.
I did. Yes, I was there. I watched it live. It was. It started out by me noticing that Ben Irving wasn't there, so it was just. Oh, yeah. Or was that the? Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
said this before. Anyway, yeah. So it was basically about. They put up their agenda like they always do, which is community topics, War for IOCAF, new daily area on PvP, Gods from the Machine, which is the ops, and the new galaxy map, which is basically a new travel system, and then some notes about Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about it here in a second. But I think they named that bullet point when they keep talking about it wrong. New galaxy map seems like, like a graphical update to the thing
Yeah,
that's been sitting in your ship, and it's not that at all. It's basically, as you said, a new travel system, a new quick travel system that's been added across the galaxy, which is pretty interesting. So they named this first section community topics. I don't know why. I think it was mostly things they're hearing from the community that they were responding to. Is that why they called it community
yeah,
topics?
I think
Okay,
so. Yeah,
I think so. So they did name a couple things in here. This first one that they talked about, I thought was interesting. The idea of unassembled components that drop from operations, making those legacy bound. I do hope they do that. So they said they're looking at it. They're not doing it in 5.2 when it first comes out, but they do know that this is very commonly requested. That I think that would be useful. Again, I'm looking at gearing up my tanks, for example. I would love to grab unassembled components or unassembled gear pieces and pass them over to alts, especially with the updates that are coming in 5.2 where they'll be dropping much more often.
yeah. I think it would be a good change. I think what I hear when they say this, whenever they say this, something we are interested in doing but we haven't decided, is they're trying to measure if it's going to be too streamlined, because you're always aiming for that horizon where it's easy enough that you can accomplish it and have fun, but not so easy that it gets tedious and
Right,
you're just clicking on stuff.
right, right. Which it seems to me, because you have to go and kill bosses and roll against other people to get those unassembled components, I can't see a way that would be game breaking, or make it too easy
Right.
on gearing up alts. So I do
Yeah,
hope they do it.
I think you're right.
What else did they say that they were? Oh, this is the next one. There was something they're not doing. What else are they not doing, Seema?
I think you're referring to this class changes item. There's no
Yeah,
class changes coming in 5.2. One of the class designers, has been busy with a new baby.
busy as in getting busy. Apparently, did I just say that? Is that
It's like
inappropriate?
the opposite of a dad joke. And they quickly point out he's not the only one working on class changes, but he's clearly key, or they don't want to make decisions or something with while he's out with his BB
Yeah, yeah. So whatever. So
life.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Although I saw a ton of rage around this, and all kinds of comments, like especially because if you look at this note, so Dolphy's note even had the quote, and they said it right after they said it in the stream. The one of our class designers, our key designer on class balance, he's out, so we've just sort of been holding off. But then they clarified right away, he's not the only one working on class changes. I saw at least half of the comments raging about this, going, I can't believe they only have one person working on class changes. Guys, they said it right there. Did you like, one of the whatever?
I'm
Okay.
sorry. You have to lead with that. Nobody listens to the second sentence.
No, or you got to make up something in your head and then claim that that's what they said, because then that makes it more fun to rage about.
I
I
always
also
picture
don't
those
think
scenes.
I don't think class balance is very bad right now, and I know people say that it's because I have a Merc, but
Right.
I saw a Sork do 3 million damage in a PvP in a war zone, like Alderaan or something, the other day.
But
Sorks were supposed
that
to be
doesn't
terrible.
matter. That doesn't matter because you have a bubble.
because I have reflect, because people
Yes.
can't kill me
Gotta be
in
has
3
to be
seconds anymore. But I see Marauders do tons of damage. Juggernauts. Yes, there are some disciplines that that are non-optimal in some situations. Like in PvP, there are some disciplines for some of the classes that don't work very well right now. But overall, advanced class balance. There are disciplines that are viable for every single advanced class, and the balance is relatively okay. You can say that PvE assassin tanks are better than any of the other tanks, but only a little better. Any group can use any of the tank classes. So I don't know. That's, and again, it's just my opinion, which is the right one.
And class balance is a moving target, and they're iterating it all the time in any game. So it's never going to get to a point like, okay, phew, now we're balanced. No more changes.
Correct. For one, and for two, I was thinking about this. This sort of clicked in my head. The way class balance works is any class differences will certainly be magnified, and they're magnified in this way. They're exponentially magnified because think about PvP. There's these independent PvP tournaments, and there's 1v1, and who's the best PvPer. The people who are the best will be going after the classes that have that point, that 0.1% difference, that they're slightly better, or 0.5% more damage over other class. So they're all going to stop playing Sork, and they're all going to go and play Juggernaut or whatever the flavor of the moment is. So then what you'll see is a lot of that class that's favored being the spec of the moment, and a lot of the best people playing that best class, because they're also the people that will min-max and know what the differences are and will go after that extra 0.5% difference. So if all the best players are playing playing that one class that's really only a 0.5% difference, it's going to see like it's twice as good as every other class, because those awesome players are the ones that are playing that only slightly better spec. So it's a perception issue more than anything else. I still don't think 1v1 tournaments and in PvP that the top PvPers are all like, nobody's switching over to play Merc in 1v1 tournaments because Merc is so awesome. It's just maybe you could try to do a Merc in a 1v1 tournament and not be laughed off of the platform. That's the only difference. So don't nerf Mercs. That's I guess that's the summary. We can move on.
Yes, let's.
Oh, this is a good one, though. So the feedback on where Command XP is going to fall after the event. And we'll have to see to be sure, but they've basically said in multiple places that you'll be getting about the same amount of Command XP for doing stuff as you do during this event right now. Maybe slightly less, but pretty close. So that, to me, was pretty good to hear. One of the ways... Yeah, go ahead.
They're spreading it around a little bit, but it should,
right,
in the end, be very similar to what it is now.
Yeah. Yes, but that's key. So you're right. They're going to be spreading it around differently. The rewards, so it's not going to be a straight up bonus like they have right now. The rewards for doing the things like the daily bonus and completing an operation and completing a war zone, those are going to go up for one. And for two, they said, which I didn't realize until last week, they're going to be giving Command XP back for killing any mob in the game. It sounded like, even back to non-strongs. So that seemed somewhat interesting to me. Hopefully we won't run into any of those situations where people feel like the most optimal way is to go, reset trash and grind whatever, blah, 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 over and over and over again. And I have to do it that way, the most boring way possible to gain Command XP. Otherwise, I'm going to fall behind. That's this kind of situation they certainly want to avoid. So I don't expect it's going to be a ton of Command XP for killing mobs, but getting some back across then anything will give you sort of a new base. That's nice.
Yeah. And they've done some revamping of the vendors. So now when you go to buy gear from the ops vendors, it'll just show the gear for your discipline by default. So it's a much cleaner, you can't, buy one by accident as easily, the wrong one by accident as easily as you used to be able to. I'm assuming you can switch it. Yeah, you can switch it to show everything, but by default it'll be just for you, your class and your discipline. And they're adding
Yes.
tier one gear from the CXP crates to the vendor so you can buy them directly with tokens.
Yeah, that's also really useful. So that
Yeah.
first one, at first when I heard it, I thought, that seems fine. And then I remembered that last week
Remember?
I took a bunch of PvP unassembled components and I bought myself an unassembled gear piece because I had
Right.
234 still in one of my slots, and I bought the wrong gear piece. I bought the combat tech gauntlets, as you can see here, instead of the eliminator gauntlets, and screwed up. Luckily I still had six piece set bonus, so I could still use that 242 armoring that I got myself. Just not have, because you don't need 7 pieces. But
Right.
that was frustrating, and so now I realize that I would really appreciate this
Yes.
this feature. Thank you. Then they went on and they started talking about blah blah blah, Warbound Crusader pack. What is that thing? So big monster is that a companion? So big monster
Let's
companion,
see.
sort of a tanky mount, and then a gear set. So they're adding things in. That must be a companion because I don't see you like sitting on top of it in the
I
picture.
see, Feigned Death, but it's not a very, it's still 480 cartel coins. That seems like a lot for an emote, or a regen thing, I mean.
Oh, that's coming too.
So
I'm just looking at the
it's,
pictures they put up in the stream.
I'm looking at the cartel market directly. I
Oh,
thought maybe it'd be on
oh, I don't,
sale.
I don't know. I don't think it's out yet. I think it's coming with 5.2,
Yeah, sorry. I got distracted by Feigned Death.
which I do all the time as we run ops. Get faked out by that all the time.
Yep.
So whatever. There's more junk coming in the Crusader pack. Nothing too interesting from my perspective, but that's looks like some monster that's as a companion. That's mildly interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a companion.
And then they
I think he looks
also
very
said,
interesting, but I don't like them in general because they don't love anything. If they love something, then I'd be more
yeah, you're
willing to.
right. No, you're absolutely right. So my dog, my ACK dog, I got him up to like rank 20, and I'm not going to go higher than rank 20 because it's a huge pain because they don't love anything. They only like things. And the only thing they love is the really expensive, rare delicacy gifts,
Right, right.
which is really hard to get. Then we also saw they talked a little bit about that strategic command walker that they're going to be able to get as a mount, I believe, and I think this is also going to be part of some junk you can do on Iocath. So I think you'll be able to get it as a mount out of the command pack, but then I think you'll also be able to get it. Well, we'll talk about it in the daily area section, which is coming up next after this. So first they talked about the game update 5.2 War of Iocath. They went a little bit through the returning companions, Quinn versus Alara. So they did clarify, and I did learn more over the course of the past week. They made it pretty clear that as you side with either the Republic or the Empire, as you get to Iocath in the lead-up story, which is sort of a short story chapter, which is not repeatable, that's when you're making the decision whether you're siding with Republic or Empire or Imperial, and that's what's going to determine which of these two companions you get. It's not a light side, dark side choice. It's also not a permanent decision. It's permanent, I think, as far as a companion goes, but it's not permanent as far as what you're doing in the dailies and what faction you're aligned to going forward, because they clarified for that you'll be able to choose that once per day. So I don't know if you heard them talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to be part of it, but there's reputation there's like Imperial rep and Republic rep on Iocath that they started talking about. So you'll be able to do them both, is what it sounds like. You can switch over, do a bunch of Imperial, then switch over and do a bunch of Republic, and you'll be able to get the rep on both of them. Your
Will you be able to
story
get
playthrough.
both companions?
No. So I think the little bit of story is not repeatable. You go through that once, and that's what determines the companion. Then once that's done, then you get access to the daily area. And then once per day, you can change faction and do the dailies and stuff
Yeah.
for the other faction. So I think that's how that goes.
I wonder how Alara would get along with a bounty hunter. I mean, it seems like she would be pretty opinionated about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And she's pretty anti Imperial Empire, too.
She is, but I'm pretty independent.
Yeah.
I'm an independent soul. So I think we're gonna find out because I think my mercenary is gonna go to pick up Alara because I don't really care about Quinn, and I think that'll be interesting.
Torn. Yeah. I don't really care about Quinn, but Alara feels weird. And it feels weird to ally with the Republic on my mercenary. I don't know. I can't decide. I guess we'll find out next week.
Especially with the headcanon of being able to switch back and forth, doing the, like
I mean, we're
doing the
bounty
dailies
hunters.
on.
We're loyal only to ourselves.
Yeah, I always liked that idea of the bounty hunter being able to sort of, pick up contracts from either side.
Plus, I mean, I am the Outlander. I mean, the
am.
Empire and the Republic should join me.
That's right, they should. Dang it. Although I think it's pretty clear with the way they're talking about this. And I think you and I, or maybe us in the team in Discord, we're talking about it. My impression is they're trying to steer the narrative back to Republic versus Empire because they're going to need things sort of centered back there. You need them centered back there at some point. That's where Star Wars lives. But I think they're going to want it back there as they move into the next story that's going to come after Iocath, for one. And for two, they're going to have to, as part of that, demote or downplay or de-emphasize the whole alliance thing. The other thing that I think I saw some people that seemed to be a little confused on the point in some of the discussions was your alliance is not one giant alliance that encompasses the whole Empire and the whole Republic. Your alliance, there's like the Empire and the Republic, and then your alliance is a third bubble. That's this small bubble down here that you got some Republic people into it, you got some Imperial people into it, and now you're just sort of a little alliance group.
But I don't think it's a small bubble compared to Republic and the Empire because we beat Zakul when they couldn't.
Because we have the because we have the Eternal Fleet, and we have I think it is really small compared to the Empire and the Republic. I think it was big enough compared to the Valen's forces by the end that were again, most of the Eternal Fleet left. Remember? So there was just like that one little remnant of the Eternal Fleet that was sort of. I remember. So I still look at it as small, and I look at it as the key players in the quote unquote alliance are just what's in your alliance. They're your companions and stuff. So it's not like cast of thousands, it's cast of tens. So that's at least in my head how I think about the alliance. It was a solid enough team and a big enough group that you were able to fight through the diminished Zakul leadership and take over. But it's certainly it's certainly a small enough group that if the Eternal Fleet, if the rest of the Eternal Fleet takes off for some reason or is destroyed or diminished, that it's not very much at all of anything. That's my view.
Well, there.
So what else? So after you finish that story part, then you open up this daily area. So I think this is going to be pretty interesting. I have not seen much about the daily area, but I'm looking forward to a new little daily area because I don't do a ton of dailies, but especially if it's a bonus or something, getting to do some daily stuff will be quite interesting.
I'm looking forward to it, and I noticed that I really enjoyed doing the the heroics back on the planets, and I'm looking forward to these to see what they'll be like because one thing I learned is I don't really enjoy going to do the ones on Yavin 4, and I don't really like the ones so much on Ziost. And I can't really, I haven't thought about it much, so I can't really tell you why, but I'm interested to see whether this set of dailies is going to be,
More
the
compelling.
kind I love. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's a good question. I think I think it's a
I
little
don't think
risky.
Yavin 4 is bad because I know a lot of people who love Yavin 4, so it's just me that, I don't know, maybe because the weekly is it's like 6 or 8 instead of 4 or 5. I don't know.
The uh, the one challenge I see that they sort of alluded to, which I think could make it go either way, and it is a little bit risky because it's some of the stuff that I like doing once, but I don't like doing a million times, is they talked about, well, you'll be able to take over a turret and you can do some of the daily stuff maybe with a turret, or maybe you can ride a walker around and then you can do some of the daily stuff in
Hmm.
a walker. And I'm only so on. I like doing that kind of stuff once or twice. I like trying it out, but I don't want to keep having to go into a walker and having 4 buttons to push, and I don't like doing that full time. So we'll see how that goes. They said like the walker thing, for example, that will also be something you can use in the PvP. So in addition to that daily area, then when you're running around on the planet, you can switch over to the PvP map and have a bunch of open PvP. Reminder on that we've talked about in the past. The key difference to the way open PvP is going to work on Iocath is depending on what faction you're currently aligned with, Republic or Imperial, you're fighting against the other faction. So you could have aligned, my bounty hunter could align with Republic today, then I'll be fighting against whoever aligned with Imperial that day, or from that point on until I switch again. As you kill NPCs or other players in PvP, you'll then be picking up an extra special currency as well that will drop from players' corpses, which I find amusing. I always want to loot to loot enemy players. You'll be able to use that currency to then what sounds like rent these Imperial Walker things to run around Iocath with the Imperial Walker and shoot other players. So that'll be interesting too.
I mean, what I've done in other games, and I don't know if it'll be like this or not, but I do the sort of novelty way of doing the quest a few times, but then you get to a point where you hop out of the vehicle and just kill them with your weapons, and it's sometimes even faster. So
Yeah,
maybe it'll be like that.
right, right, exactly. And if it is, then as the chat was saying, I hope it's optional. If it's fun and you like it,
Yeah.
do it. But if you can do it without it, then do it without it too. And then, of course, we've saw a lot, and we talked quite a bit about boss number 1 from the Gods from the Machine operation, and that boss number 1 is Tithe. Definitely check out those influencer community videos if you have not seen those yet. You'll get to see that Tithe fight in a couple different ways, in normal or story and veteran. Normal and veteran. I forgot what they're called these days. Normal and story mode and veteran mode. But that will be coming out next week, and we'll all get to fight Tithe. And we'll hear a little bit in the patch notes in just a second about the kinds of loot that's going to drop off of them, which will be different. And then finally, they got into the stream the deal with this galaxy map and the updated new galaxy map. And yeah, to be clear, as you were saying, as the way you described it, Seema, I think is right on. This is not updated artwork. This is a new quick travel system that spans the galaxy that you can use from anywhere that fits in your pocket. I think that's sort of a way to describe it. So what did you think of this, quick travel, I can travel from anywhere, I can pull up this galaxy map and do this kind of stuff idea?
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love it. Like I said last week, my initial reaction was, I don't know, it's kind of taking the galaxy and putting it into my UI, but I think I'm going to get over that real fast. And I like the perks that they're adding to it too. So if you already have bought certain perks, you're going to be able to do some things from the map easier or for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that idea.
Yeah. So they clicked around it a little bit. They mentioned a couple things which I have not seen, but so for example, you click into here, you click onto Coruscant, Coruscant comes up. So I could be standing in my stronghold, or I could be standing in a I could be standing in a shuttle bay on a orbital station or whatever, and still be able to travel to these places, which you cannot do now, which is completely annoying. That's going to be
Wait,
one of
did
the
they
best.
say orbital stations too? I know
Well,
they
they
said
did
shuttle
not say
base.
orbital stations. You're right. They did not say orbital stations, but I extrapolated that, so I hope so. Don't leave one last place that's
I
annoying
don't
and
know.
unable to be summoned from. Anyway,
I think you should manage your expectations, Max.
but then you'll be able to, from anywhere, flip out your whip out your galaxy map, click on Coruscant, and say, "I want to travel to Coruscant." Further, they mentioned, I didn't see it represented anywhere, but they mentioned potentially being able to travel to multiple different places on a planet, almost like
Yeah.
travel directly to a quick travel point because I need to get to the Jurin Mountains instead of the spaceport on Alderaan. So
Yeah.
they at least have the flexibility to do that. I didn't see it in any of the screenshots, but the way the
No.
screens are laid out, they definitely have the flexibility to be able to do that. So, game breaking or lore breaking or not, I'm certainly gonna like the ability.
Yeah, I don't really mean lore breaking because I mean it's already, I mean you're summoning a shuttle and you could be like under a bush or something. I mean, or in a hallway.
Right. But so whatever. I called up. Oh, I remember. I remember. I have to trademark that. I called this Space Uber.
Right.
So you pull
Right.
out your mobile your holo communicator. You call up Space Uber and you get a Space Uber to Alderaan. I'm fine with it working that way. So it comes and picks you up outside. So it just skips that cutscene where you walk out and get in the Space Uber.
I appreciate that I mean, we've been asking for a long time for these dead zones to be cleared up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there for some reason they didn't fix them because to fix them would be a lot of work. But if they take that work and apply it towards like a revamp of the whole thing, then it becomes more worth it. So
Right.
we'll
Right.
see.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
And then finally, they wrapped up just by re-mentioning Star Wars Celebration, and Friday of next week is when they'll be out there for Star Wars Celebration, and we'll have at least Zen out there and maybe Brew, and they're going to have a little contest where people can fight Tithe and get prizes for it, and hopefully answer some questions. I wouldn't expect anything big coming out of it, but there's always at least a little bit of tasty discussion that happens with the developers in the Q&A.
And they might surprise us.
They
Oh,
could
I didn't say that out loud.
get your expectations real high. Seema has promised surprises from Star Wars Celebration. We'll see how that goes. All right. So that was sort of long, but that actually covers a lot of what's in the patch notes too. But we highlighted a couple other things. Why don't we go through those? If you look at anything in the patch notes, just as a reminder, you can just look at their first chunk of the section, which is called highlights. And in there, they just tick off the big things. So the big things are the new IOcast storyline. So great. You do a little bit of the story. That's where you're picking the companion. The two companions that
And
are
how
coming
many
back.
times can you do that story?
Just once. It's not repeatable.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Were you mocking me?
No.
Because I have not.
No, I would never do that.
Well, Seema, let me tell you, because I have not said it about 10 times already this podcast. You can only do it once. The first boss from the new operation, the Galaxy map, the Galactic Command gearing changes, a couple other notes in there. Reminder, as you progress further and further along in the ranks, you'll get better and better chance at getting set pieces, for example. So by the end of rank 2, when you get up to 150, 150 out of 160, you'll have a much better chance of getting set pieces. So that's nice to know too. And then 300 becomes tier 4, and you just stick at 300, and every box you get from that on is tier 4. That's part of what's coming. Master mode uprisings, which I forgot all about.
Yeah.
We'll be getting a master mode for each of those. And what was the deal with updated class story introductions? This was just. So I saw their note in the dev tracker on this. Did you see that, Seema?
No.
I think all they did is it sounded like they in-game refilmed some of those introductory scenes for the class stories and added just a little bit of the better special effects to how they sort of do those in-game cutscenes.
Oh, with the camera moving and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's
that
all
makes
it is.
sense.
Nothing all that big there. So what else? So then they have these in the general section. Did anything jump out of there at you, Seema, that you thought was quite interesting?
Just what I mentioned before is that the 100% command boosts that you can buy either from the vendor and the ones from the cartel market also, they now work at all command ranks. So the way I take that is there's a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3 that you can buy that are 15% more or something like that. But you always could buy that 100% more one that was 200 tokens.
Yep.
Now maybe that one didn't work at all ranks. I don't know, but now it will.
Right. I think that one stopped at 160, and the small ones would go further. So now they're getting rid of the different types of small ones and just having one small one and one big one, and all of them work all the time for any command rank. So that's good. Makes it easier to deal with, and it's not like you get cut off. The all enemies, this is where they listed all enemies. Yeah, all enemies now have command experience value when killed. Based values, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I thought this note was amusing, which I think is useful. The audio that plays when Group Finder Q is ready has been improved to be more noticeable. I've done this for PvP too, although that one's relatively dramatic. Is you queue up, it's taken a couple minutes, you step away or you look away, you go do something else, and bam, that's when it pops, and then you miss the queue. So I always turn up my volume really loud, and then it like blasts that dun 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 for the PvP when the PvP queue pops, so I don't miss it.
It looks like they've gone through Coruscant too and fixed some resource nodes that were, they were there but you couldn't gather them. Like when you can see that they're there but they're behind a piece of grating or a box or something, or they spawn inside a box. So that's interesting if they're doing stuff like that.
In all of these sections, they've peppered in a ton of that kind of bug fix, which I think is pretty interesting. So,
yeah.
I think I've mentioned this before. People have, I see this sort of argument in the forums and type of ragey discussion before as well. Why are you spending time working on a new galaxy map when I still have my robes are clipping?
Right.
Why don't you fix these bugs that have been in the game for 5 years? Well, here's the thing. You can't, as a developer, you can't put out an update to your product that is only bug fixes, because that's boring and no one wants that. No one wants to buy that. But you can't not fix bugs either. So there's different buckets, and you've got to pick from multiple buckets to put together a release. So in this release, they picked what seemed to be quite a few things out of the bug fix bucket, but then they're also doing the PvE bucket, and they're doing some quality of life bucket type stuff. So they're picking from a few buckets, and that's how they're putting together a release, which I think is the right way to do it. But yeah, a lot out of the bug fix bucket.
And they've been doing some work on Bolster for PvE, and I'm hoping that one of the results of that, it doesn't say that, so I want to be clear, will be that it's fixed for Eyeless and Xeno Analyst.
Yeah, I hope it is too. That's a good point. They don't mention those, but that would be great, because especially since they come around so often these days, and we want to do them as a guild group. They did say bolster for all PvE content has been buffed slightly. I don't know that there was a big need for that, but I guess that's fine.
Right.
Maybe
And then
maybe
they
for
also,
going like through Temple of Sacrifice. Well, I mean, yeah, then maybe yeah. Temple of Sacrifice is still difficult for people without gear that are relying on bolster, trying to get in there and do the content. So that'd be nice.
yeah. I'm just, that's my, as you say, that's my headcanon. I have in my mind this dev is looking at bolster because he's going to buff it and he sees, oh, someone forgot to flip the switch on Eyeless. Oh, and here on Xenoanalyst too.
Yeah,
I'll
that
fix
would be
that.
nice. Galactic Starfighter, there's daily and weekly, which we're not awarding the unassembled components, the unassembled pieces that you turn into unassembled components that turn into unassembled gear pieces that turn into gear pieces. Anyway, I did notice that I was not getting those. Those were not part of the daily and weekly for Starfighter, so it was just mildly interesting to me that they're adding those in. I've got a pretty good collection of those, and those are useful for the PvPers. Again, that's not the only way you're supposed to be getting gear. You're still getting command crates every time you're doing PvP because you're getting command levels still. But having those unassembled components to fill in the couple pieces that you did not get out of crates over time is useful. Anything too interesting out of items in economy?
Well, I mean, I like this one where some female characters' heads or faces were getting stretched when they wore certain helms. I remember when I first started playing, I had a chest. I was playing a gunslinger, and I had a chest where the collar would go out like 10 feet out ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I thought, I would
Yeah.
never ever. I wouldn't even wear that now. But in those days, I was like, oh, it'll go away.
Yeah.
What can I shoot?
Right. Yeah. Again,
But
out
if
of
my
that
face got
bug fix
stretched,
bucket.
I would not. Yeah,
Yes, I would not. I would not want my face.
I would not like
stretched
that.
either.
Well, your face is stretched.
Yeah. So also in here, bunch of things like that: decoration fixes, mount fixes, tooltip fixes, bunch of that kind of thing. The only thing that got real interesting for me is down. Here's where you can read into Tier 2, Tier 3 are the unassembled gear pieces that are going to be dropping. So Tier 1 gear pieces don't drop in operations anymore. You can buy those directly without the unassembled gear piece, or you will soon be able to buy those directly. I don't think that's not coming right at the launch of 5.2, but that's coming soon after. That was confirmed. What you'll be getting is every boss in a story mode operation will, except for the newest one, will be dropping a tier 2 legendary. Tier 2 legendary unassembled gear pieces will be dropping in story mode. Tier 3 legendary unassembled gear pieces dropping in veteran mode for all of the existing operations. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The newest boss, Tithe, will be dropping Tier 3 legendary in story mode and Tier 4 legendary in veteran mode. So that's also interesting. And then as they do master mode is master mode for any of the operations in already? Are they in? They're in. For like master mode, a Temple of Sacrifice?
Is what in now?
Master mode operations for like Temple of Sacrifice and the ones that have master modes, they're in, right?
I thought they were, yeah. It
We're
says a
not
lot that we
doing
have no
them.
idea. Yeah.
Anyway, those will be dropping Tier 4 in the master mode of existing operations. So you got that going for you. And then purchasing that Tier 2 unassembled gear, you no longer have to have the Tier 1 gear piece to turn in with the Tier 2 unassembled gear because you won't necessarily have those Tier 1 gear pieces because you're getting the Tier 2 right out of the operations.
Yeah.
And then, of course, to match all of that, they talk a little bit about Tier 4. So Tier 4 starts at 300, and you stay at 300, and every time you complete the 300 to what would be 301, you get another crate, and there's tier 4 vendors that have been added to the fleet.
The one that you have highlighted down here that jumped out at me too was addressed an issue where if a Jedi Knight repeated Chapter 3 Outlander, they could no longer summon T7. And I wonder,
Oh yeah.
because we had a guildie Dent who lost his T7. I wonder if this will fix that.
Yeah, so that was a good bug fix, that I called out. Most of these other bug fixes I just sort of breezed on through, but a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people on the forums and in Reddit, and just sort of frustrated that T7's supposed to be there and has been gone and broken for so long. So
And he's so
hopefully this will be
awesome.
fixed. Yeah,
It would be a
T7's pretty
terrible
cool.
one not to have. Yeah.
Right, astromechs are so useful, as we all know. That's right. This last one in this missions and NPC section, Seema.
Yes, I don't get this one at all.
Calves around the galaxy have become strangely hungry as of late. You don't know what that means?
I do not.
So I don't know completely what it means, but I saw people alluding to in multiple chat threads that this is talking about some sort of nerf herder pet secret achievements and pet thing that's in the game that I didn't even know was there.
You have to go and feed them, and then they become your pet.
Maybe something like that. I mean, it sounds like what it. I don't know if it's new, they're just adding it in, or it's been there and not working, and this is a bug fix, or what. That was my first impression, was that it was a bug fix, and now it's working. But maybe that's never been in there before. Maybe this is brand new. Some of the people are getting stuff out of data mining also. So they may have replied in the thread like, "Oh yeah, we already knew about this from data mining," without saying that. So maybe this is brand new. So it's something to keep an eye out for.
Yes. In the chat room, they're saying, Seema greatly approves. I do. I'm going to stay up now until 5.2 drops. Not
Yes.
sleeping.
Now, Seema, now how much would you pay?
Right.
And that's
1
not all.
million credits.
Now nerf calves around the galaxy have become strangely hungry as of late. Now how much would you pay?
I will feed them scrambled eggs and toast.
A $50 value for only $9.99. War zones. Why did I highlight these? Increased requirements to earn. Oh, I thought this was mildly interesting. So they made a couple of the baseline medals a little bit more difficult to get, so you can't just go in there and do nothing and get those medals, for one. But for two, the more interesting part is you get command XP for medals at a bigger multiplier, which is basically saying they're going to be rewarding people that are getting medals, which is how you prove that you contributed in PvP. And for better or for worse, medals aren't a perfect measure, but rewarding people for contributing and getting in there and doing stuff is positive. I like that. I like that idea. If you're a tank or a healer, you tend to get more medals than straight up DPS, so you got that going for you, which is nice. And that, I think, is a good roundup of these patch notes, which again were just extensive. That's what struck me more than anything else. It was very extensive in terms of bug fixes. So, good. A lot of these things that hopefully that have been bugging people for a while will be fixed.
Yes. We'll see.
All right. So I'm looking forward to 5.2. I'm not all that broken up that it's another week. It'll just give me a chance to shore up
Me either,
my...
because now it's going to come after Star Wars Celebration instead of right before.
Right. That was also, yeah, that's not bad. I don't know. Maybe that figured into the
Yeah, it might
the
have.
decision
Yeah.
to delay also. It looks pretty good, but now I'm not... Wait, what? We're all leaving the next day after we just released the new update of a new, of 5.2?
Nothing bad could happen.
That's probably not a great idea. Why don't we wait till we get back? All right, let's wait until we get back. But yeah, so I'm going to spend the next week getting maybe a couple other operation packs out of some operations, maybe fill in, get a few more unassembled PvP components. Oh, geez, look, I'm almost at the cap on command tokens. 2935 out of 3,000.
Wow.
I got to be careful not to hit the cap. So you can do that. You can squeak out the last bit of bonus XP on any of your characters and be all ready for 5.2 next week. And next week, we will talk about that a bit as we hopefully get a little bit of time on the game earlier in the day, get some of the daily area
stuff
done a little bit.
Yeah.
And we'll jump in next Tuesday night and talk about that.
Maybe we'll find a calf and feed him like
That's
a
what we're gonna
pastrami
spend the whole time
sandwich.
doing. Rhodian mayo sandwiches fed to Nerf calves. That sounds like great. That's all Tuesday. And for the first week, it's only going to be Nerf calf. All Nerf calf, all the time. SWTOR Escape Podcast.
24/7.
We're going to rename our podcast to Nerfcast. Come join for Nerfcast. Nerfcast number 3. We're going to be talking about the texture on the back of Nerfcast Style 3 this week.
Yes. That's my plan.
All right. So with that, our EPC 189 droid is ready to head out and not be delayed for a week. It'll be the honor of EPC droid 190 to go out with 5.2. But certainly thanks to all of you for joining us on newoverlords.com, iTunes, YouTube, or live here tonight on Twitch. We will stream again next Tuesday night on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AIESEMA. And please jump on YouTube and subscribe there. I'd like to see those numbers go up once in a while. Not a big deal, but it doesn't really do much. But it's one more, so why not? And certainly come find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite. We would love to have you come in and jump in with us and play. So that would be cool. And we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.